Great book. Okay,
so like we said earlier, sports, quote unquote, is a pretty broad topic.
mm-hmm.
What do you want to talk about?
So kind of want to talk about Christian involvement in sports, whether it's so it is kind of a broad overview. Christians in sports, using the platform of sports to share their faith. Christians being involved in competitive violent sport like MMA. I think we can kind of, and then also I guess sports that we're excited by personally. I guess we can start. I think we should start off talking about sports we're excited by, and then work our way into those other things. Because it's very interesting how the perspective some people have on sports and whether Christians should be involved in them or not. So, sports that you guys are excited by, or when the new season of something starts. If you're into sports at all, what do you guys think?
For me, it's a national holiday when baseball kicks off. That was a bad metaphor. Baseball does not kick off, but opening day, when baseball opens, is probably the one thing I'm more excited about than anything else. It used to be college football, and then being a Michigan fan, reality took hold. So I've also been a lifelong Lions fan. Same story. And so baseball is the sport. The Tigers are the sport that I'm most passionate about, I would say. What's interesting about me in sports is, and maybe this just means I'm a super fair weather fan. I used to be very into basketball and hockey, and then and I noticed that the times I was really into that coincided with when my teams were really good, and I have never been as checked out on a sport as I am on the NBA right now. Apparently, they still do an All-Star game in February, and when I saw the rosters, I recognized like 3 or 4 of the names, and I was really surprised because I thought I was more plugged into the culture than that. But I do not know these guys. Same deal with hockey.
All we can see is your head. There we go. And I couldn't hear you for a minute there. I was like, where did you go? Okay. So we literally just saw your forehead just moving as you're talking.
Oh, okay.
I'll edit all that out. Kara, Amy?
I'm with Ken. I am a take the day off of work to go watch opening day baseball kind of girl. Although I am not with Kent in his fascination with the Tigers, or in fact with anything American League, because National League Baseball is the only true authentic version of baseball, as the sport was originally created to be played. But I do also
speak we have designated hitters.
Well, designated hitters are just, for pitchers who are wimps. But
okay, all right.
And nothing says baseball tradition more than the majesty of the tradition of the Colorado Rockies.
Please, the Rockies suck. Like my team's any better, but that's anyway.
Okay.
But no, this is the time of year when I start paying attention to college basketball. I am the world's worst bracketology person because I always just pick my alma mater, the Arizona Wildcats, bear down, to go all the way, and then I fill in the rest of the bracket based on whether or not I like the school colors. So that only worked for me once in 1997 when Wildcats actually won. Otherwise, yeah.
But you look pretty smart then.
Oh, I did. I'm like, look, we went all the way. But yeah, it's just kind of like I don't pay attention pretty much all season long unless they're doing really good. But whenever the Final Four and March Madness and all that comes around, I'm always opening up the sports section to see if Arizona's in a bracket somewhere, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, my team's doing good. So, but no, baseball
I feel like today
is my thing for sure.
I feel like today was NCAA Selection Sunday. I feel pretty good about that, but I have no idea what happened. So I'll get excited about that on Wednesday when somebody bugs me about a bracket.
Well, it's all about the uniform colors, I'm telling you. That's the secret to bracketology is I can't root for Villanova because their colors just really mess with my feng shui. Yeah.
I just got to say, if I ever said that to any of my guy friends, I would be laughed out of the room. Like, are you serious, bro? But interestingly enough,
knowing what colors Villanova wears.
say again. I didn't hear that.
I will give Amy credit for knowing what colors Villanova wears.
You're a little muffled and muted. I don't know what's going on.
Any better now?
Yeah, way better. Way better.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out where the microphone is on this laptop.
Oh, it's definitely closer to the top where the camera is, most likely.
Okay.
So, as for me, sports. I am not much into sports, believe it or not. I do like things when they get to championship rounds. Never been into college football or college basketball. So when March Madness comes around, which we're in right now, I'm not huge into it. I don't know who the teams are. I don't know who the players are. I don't know who's slated to go to the NBA or anything like that. But when it does get to the NBA, I do like to watch the finals all the way through, but just the finals. I can't take the playoffs. The last time I watched the entire playoff series was when the Pistons were in, Detroit Pistons, and we went on and we ended up beating the LA Lakers, and then the next year we went on 7 games against San Antonio Spurs and ended up losing in the 7th game. So we played as many games as we possibly could that season. So it was pretty cool. So they got their money's worth, that's for sure, but we ended up losing that game. But, I just I've never much been into watching sports as much as playing sports. I loved playing soccer. I loved playing basketball. And I love, although this is not active, this all takes place on my couch at this point, I love playing video games of sports. I'm a huge fan of boxing games and football games and playing Madden and UFC 15. So loving to play games like that where I can beat other people up. So that's a lot of fun. What about you, Kara?
I am like you, Calvin. I don't really enjoy watching sports. Like, I watch the big ones, like Super Bowl Sunday. I enjoy. I can get into like the Final Four, March Madness, playoff stuff. But again, it's much more social for me. I like to make snacks and have people over, and I will watch the game, but also be, socializing and watching commercials and making more snacks. March Madness. I like to cheer for teams that people I love are cheering for, and so I can get excited about it. I'm totally a bandwagon fan. I don't ever have a team. I'm like, I will love them no matter what.
It's funny, as Kara's saying this, you guys can't see the video. We do this on Google Hangouts, but Kara's actually wearing a Syracuse shirt right now.
Oh, yeah.
Interestingly enough, you're the only one on this podcast wearing a sports-related shirt, and do you even know whose number are you wearing?
Oh, it's not. There's not a number. It just says S.
Oh, it just says Syracuse. Okay, all right.
S for Syracuse, but I wore this on purpose actually because I claim to be a Syracuse fan because I spent the first 5 years of my life in Syracuse, and my biological dad lives in Syracuse, and even though I don't really have a good relationship with him, it's one thing I like to do because it's like he likes that. He's really excited, and he'll call me and be like, "Oh my gosh, Syracuse is in the Final Four," and I'll be like, "Yeah." And, I mean, I don't ever watch the games, but when I hear they win, I'm like, "Oh yeah, my team won." But I way more enjoy playing sports. I really like to play sports. I'm very competitive. I like to be on a team. I played basketball in high school. I sat on the bench a lot, but I really liked it. I played softball, and I love some ultimate frisbee.
They need to have like real professional ultimate frisbee leagues.
Right?
Maybe they do.
Don't they? I think they do have ultimate frisbee leagues.
Because the USA Ultimate national governing body just moved into my building here in Colorado Springs.
What?
For a fact. that ultimate frisbee is a professional sport. Yeah.
I've played some of that. I get pretty winded playing that, probably even more so than when I was playing soccer.
I would try to be an American Ninja Warrior too. That would be fun.
So okay, so I'm actually that guy. Like, kind of Kara. Again, yeah, you and I are very similar on Super Bowl Sunday. That's the only football game of the year that I really watch, and I'll be that guy who's like that jerk who will, like, people will be talking sports, people who are like really into sports, and they'll just be talking stats and stats and stats on stats, and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about or the players are talking about, but I'll know like one name of one player, and I'll stick my head in and I'll be like, man, this guy is the most complete player in all of the NFL. And they'll be like, what are you talking? And I'll just like fade out because that's all I can say. And I just want to say something that's going to throw them for a loop. And they'll bring up all that guy's stats and everything. It's hilarious just to mess with people who are super, super into sports. But I do notice within the realm of sports, a lot of Christians. There are a lot of Christians in sports. There are a lot of people who aren't Christians as well. But there are people who have been at the top of their game and have been able to use their platform to, I guess, share their faith in different ways. A name that comes to mind is Tim Tebow. Robert Griffin III has worn kind of his "No Jesus, No Peace, No Jesus, No Peace" shirt, and a few other notable athletes as well have been very open about their faith when asked, and sometimes not when asked. Now, what do you guys think about Christians kind of using their platform of either being in the NFL or the NBA or MLB to share their faith? And I know that Major League Baseball here in Detroit actually has Christian Day, and they'll have Christian artists come out and sing music, and some of the athletes who are believers will actually have church groups in, and they'll speak to them and things like that. What do you guys think about Christians using their platform to, I guess, proselytize and share the faith and evangelize?
I don't have. Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't have a problem with it. That actually is a very long-standing tradition, because when you say that, the very first person I think of is Eric Liddell, the Scottish minister who won the Olympics in 1924. And his whole, the movie Chariots of Fire is about his life, and that was his whole purpose, is using running specifically as a vehicle for his ministry. And it was powerful, and he ended up dying in a concentration camp in China in World War II. But, it's a very long-standing tradition, and I think a very useful one. It can be abused, obviously. I was personally never a huge fan of Tim Tebow's little, John 3:16 eyewear. I kind of thought, okay, do you have to flaunt it that way? Does that really make a difference? I don't know. But, yeah, I think it opens doors to get people who might not otherwise hear the gospel to listen or to stand up and take notice.
I have trouble imagining, and granted, I've been a Christian my entire life. I started going to church when I was 4 weeks old and haven't stopped. So that's the worldview that I've got. When people complain about Tim Tebow and to a lesser degree Robert Griffin, it's mostly Tebow that people complained about several years ago. I can't wrap my mind around that. I don't understand why it's offensive to you unless Christianity itself is offensive.
Well, I think that's actually the point. I think most people who think it's offensive just think all of Christianity and all Christians are offensive. They don't want it flaunted in public, period.
Well, I think of people like Eric Liddell. Well, I hadn't thought about it until you brought him up. But when I think about someone, in that era of time, you didn't have the 24-hour news cycle. You didn't have ESPN on 24 hours a day, giving their thoughts on things with cameras in the faces of all the players. You didn't have the players who had to give interviews after interviews after interviews after every single game. They weren't on this grand world stage as they are now. And I look at people like Tim Tebow, and I'm going, okay, I'm glad he has shared his story and shared his faith. And more often than not, when he's sharing his faith, he is asked. So he's being invited. And then, of course, people were like, oh, he talks about his faith too much. But they asked him. And like, you asked him a question directly about his faith, and he answered about his faith. It's not like he's running out there with passing a Bible to the player instead of a football. He was asked a question and he would answer the question. But other than that, he'd get on the field, and all he would do is win. All I do is win, win, win. Yeah. Anyway, so, then my fear is, and this is based in fear, so I'm being honest about that, is they're on this world stage, and if something goes wrong, it's a spectacular fall, because everybody loves someone when they're on their way up. But a lot of people love to see a hero crash and burn. And I think a lot of people wanted that of Tim Tebow. I think he got out of the game quick enough, but then you have players like Texas Rangers, Josh Hamilton, right? And, he was very big about his faith and very open about his faith, and they would stick the cameras in his face, and he would constantly talk about Jesus and constantly talk about how Jesus has saved his life, and now he's had this spectacular crash and talking about his drug addiction and alcoholism. That's what he's facing right now. And now everyone's like, well, see, here's a hypocrite. And so I feel like a lot of these athletes, while I am completely happy and think they should use their platform to share the gospel if they can, because you only have this platform for a short while of time, so why not make Jesus famous while you can? My fear is because of the grandiose nature of that platform, the size of the platform, and the reach of the platform, because of the proclivity to fall and the fact that cameras are on you during that entire time, I almost feel like, and some Christians will hate me for saying this, I almost feel like Christians who are in the limelight should scale back a little bit and be a little bit more nuanced about sharing their faith. Not saying be silenced and not ever mention Jesus or not talk about him, but definitely I would shy away from the Tim Tebow John 3:16 thing, or that's all I would have is the John 3:16 thing, and maybe mention Jesus every now and again. But some people would say that I'm watering down the gospel for saying that, but people who say that also don't have cameras on them 24/7 either. If they fall, if they sin, it's not on a world stage. So it's very easy for us to say, oh, you're watering down the gospel when you don't have cameras in your face all day long. And when you sin against your wife, you don't have cameras on you and people commentating on a fight you had in the elevator that led to you beating up your girlfriend. Although that's not acceptable by any means am I saying that. But that happens all the time, and there are no cameras and no commentary, so imagine how much more pressure it is when you do have that kind of commentary on your life.
Well, I think that just speaks to the larger issue of you need to be walking your faith out whether you're on camera or off camera, whether you've got John 3:16 on your cheeks or not. And so, yeah, they may have extra pressure because they're in the limelight to walk that walk, to throw out another cliche there. But that's just it. All of the proselytizing or yay Jesus or interviews or eyewear or whatever cannot cover up for the fact that you're either living out your faith every day when the cameras are on or off, or you're not. And yeah, we all mess up. No one's perfect, and they might have the opportunity, or or opportunity makes it sound like a positive thing, and it's not. But if they mess up, if they fall down, and we all do, theirs is probably going to be more public than ours. But I don't think that says, just hide your Christianity just in case. I wouldn't go there. I would say, you know what, if you're going to be bold enough on that platform to say, hey, I'm a Christian and I stand for it, then I think you're kind of taking on the extra responsibility of, then you need to really make sure you're living out the way that you say you believe.
Okay, so that takes me to the next kind of topic underneath this topic, and we'll just spend a few minutes talking about this. A few weeks ago, we talked about the death penalty, and we talked about nonviolence and whatnot. But one of my quickly becoming one of my favorite sports, at least in the video game world, I have not been able to watch it yet, is MMA fighting. And so you've got people who bludgeon each other. The point is to get into the ring and cause bodily harm to someone else. Boxing, kind of along the same lines as well, but obviously with MMA you've got knees, you've got feet kicking people in the face, I mean, you're supposed to make people tap out. You're supposed to choke them out so they pass out, things like that. So very, very violent, what I would call blood sport. And I have friends who disagree with me on that definition, but it's a very, very violent sport. But one of the main guys has, I believe, Philippians 4:13 tattooed on his chest. It's very, very open about his faith. John Jones Jr., who's the player that I actually use in the game the most. And I love watching him knock somebody out in the game. It's like, oh, my God. And I find different ways to knock people out, and it's so cool. But I do, and he's a Christian. He's been very outspoken about his faith, and he's, again, one of those guys who's kind of had a spectacular fall. He tested for steroid use or something like that, which is not surprising in that sport. But my question is, can Christians be, I mean, you're walking out your faith, and you're talking about Jesus, and I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength, but should Christians be involved in sports like that, like MMA, where the intent is to cause bodily harm? And I think we call it sport to make ourselves, I personally think we call it sport to make ourselves feel better, when in fact it's just wanton violence with style thrown in my personal opinion. In a video game, it's one thing, I can remove myself from it, but in real life I still haven't been able to bring myself to it, because I'm just like, I'm kind of a non-violent person. Should we be beating each other up for sport?
Yeah, personally, like I hate it. I hate those fights. My husband loves to watch them. Often we put the baby to bed. I come downstairs and he's watching two like mostly naked men like arm wrestle each other. It looks like some kind of weird big hug, and like it makes me, honestly, I sat down to watch it with him one time and like I started crying. It was terrible. I was like, what are they doing? Why are people watching this and cheering them on? Like, I just do not get it. And maybe it is like a girl versus guy thing, but I think that is awful. It is not entertainment to me in the least, and I hate it. Now, I don't mind watching some like WWE, WWF wrestling. I don't really enjoy it, but that to me is so like fake and showy that it's kind of like it's funny. But like the for real
WWE wrestling is real, Kara.
Oh,
it is
okay,
real.
I'm sorry. I mean, Hulk Hogan's the real deal for sure.
Hulk Hogan slammed Andre the Giant in the Pontiac Silverdome at WrestleMania 3. That's as real as it gets. That's as real as it gets, Kara.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll step back off of Hulk Hogan, but I'm just saying, like, I think, like, to me, I don't enjoy it at all. I don't think that they should be doing it, so I just choose not to watch. Obviously, my husband is a missionary and a minister, and he enjoys it, so there you go.
I'm having some connection problems right now. Is everybody here?
Yep, we can hear you.
I don't. I don't viscerally hate MMA as much as Kara does. In that, I think my collective experience with MMA may be 45 seconds in the last 20 years since I first heard of it. It's completely uninteresting to me for reasons I can't really describe. I think I find boxing a lot more interesting, but I don't watch that either. And I think for men, especially of a certain age, there is a romantic, not boy girl, but a romantic attachment to the idea of boxing because of the Rocky movies. But
Adrian.
I mean, that's not real. I mean, if you know anything about boxing, or if you've ever seen a single fight and then you go and watch a Rocky movie, it's unrecognizable as boxing because that's not what boxing looks like. Yet, I think in the back of our minds, we all think, oh yeah, I like boxing better than MMA. As far as the violence goes, I would probably draw a line between amateur or Olympic-style boxing, which I don't think has any moral implications at all, because the idea is to score points, as opposed to professional boxing, where the idea is to cause a concussion. And I can't even really comment on MMA because I've never seen a fight and I don't know any fighters, and it just seems weird and gross.
Amy?
I concur. No, I was gonna say we were talking about television for Lenten, the last recording. I've gone close to 13 years now without TV in my house, so I am not up on any of this stuff at all. To me, I'm with Ken. It's completely uninteresting to me, so I really can't comment on MMA. I can say you got very excited, Calvin, in talking about your video game MMA. I found that amusing, but it's not something that, in principle, I can see where it might be an issue for some people to participate in an activity that its sole aim is to cause physical bodily harm, but I have no frame of reference for those kind of sports or video games or any of that stuff, so I've seen it even less than you guys have.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so we lost Kara, so we'll wind down. I don't even know if I'll actually include the MMA part because I don't think we got too deep into that, but we got deep into the other stuff. So thanks so much for doing this. We've actually, technically speaking, I think because I wasn't able to post this Friday, we have 3 weeks of material that I can post, so we don't need to do this. We probably still will do it week after that.
Do it. You've got a 1 week programming buffer built in inadvertently.
I do.
Use
so
it.
I can always post it in somewhere else.
Of it. So if something else happens and we can't record or whatever.
Okay, cool. So I will see you guys in a week after next. That work?
29th? Okay.
Yep. All
Sounds
right.
good.
Thanks so much. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.